Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very, very well. Having a good Tuesday. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into, especially coming out of last night's edition of Monday Night Raw. Sunday's Royal Rumble. We're now on the road to WrestleMania, so there is so much to get into. So let's get straight into today's stories, and let's start off about the possible WrestleMania main event involving the winner of the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble match. That would be Edge, because we now have a bit of news, big news, on Edge's planned WrestleMania 37 match. Now, we saw, of course, Edge win the Royal Rumble on Sunday, which has led to a lot of people saying, wow, who is the Rated R superstar going to be facing off against at WrestleMania this year in April? Well, obviously, he can choose between the WWE and Universal Championship. Right now, the WWE Champion is Drew McIntyre. We saw a brief confrontation between Edge and McIntyre last night on Raw, but we also have the Universal Champion Roman Reigns on SmackDown. Wow, according to reports, WWE Hall of Famer Edge and WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns is the reportedly planned main event for WrestleMania 37. Now, Edge appeared last night on Monday Night Raw to address his 30-man Royal Rumble victory from Sunday, but Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter has been reporting that he will be challenging Roman Reigns on SmackDown for the Universal Championship. Now, of course, Roman Reigns retained his Universal Championship over Kevin Owens in a last man standing match at Sunday's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Now, it was also noted on the female side of things that Bianca Belair's WrestleMania 37 match right now is undecided at this point. Belair, of course, won the 30-woman Royal Rumble match to earn her title shot at WrestleMania 37 too. So there you go. We'll have to wait and see about how official this is going to be, if Dave Meltzer is indeed correct. But there we go. Edge is going to be facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, according to Dave Meltzer. Now, interesting news. I think if you lined them up against each other, either match works. Either match works for me. Edge versus Drew McIntyre works. Edge versus Roman Reigns works for me. I think they're both WrestleMania credible main events. I think some of the people that were complaining about Edge winning the Royal Rumble on Sunday, I think was ridiculous, frankly. I think, and that's not just because I predicted it to happen or Edge was my pick to win it. I think it's ridiculous that people were complaining about it. Because people are saying, well, oh, can't believe it. Can't believe some part-timer won the Royal Rumble, and it's just, oh, look at it. You know, you wouldn't complain if it's Goldberg, and you would complain if it's Goldberg, you complain if it's Brock Lesnar. What's the difference with Edge? Well, it's different. It's different. Edge still has the good graces from the fans, obviously. Whenever Edge does come back, he works very, very hard. I mean, the guy had like a 40-minute match, for better or for worse, at WrestleMania last year. And look at the story here. The story here is unbelievable. It's incredible. If you wrote it down in real life, if you wrote it in a Hollywood movie, people wouldn't believe it. They'd say it's unrealistic. And the dates, everything just works. Everything is perfect about this story when it comes to Edge and WrestleMania. The guy has to retire after WrestleMania 27. He goes into WrestleMania 27, retains the World Heavyweight Championship. 7 days later, he has to relinquish that very same World Heavyweight Championship and retire. 10 years later, so he makes a miraculous return last year at the Royal Rumble. Then he gets injured once again. 10 years later, this year, he can win the Royal Rumble and go back to that very same event and challenge for a championship he never lost. The second night, night 2 of WrestleMania, falls on the very same night, 10 years to the day that Edge retired from WWE in-ring competition in the first place. That is incredible. And if WWE passed up on that opportunity, everyone, universally, pun intended, would be criticising them, saying, I can't believe they're missing out on that opportunity. 10 years later, from a career-ending injury, if you take one more bump or even get touched in the slightest, you'll be paralysed or anything like that. And then 10 years later, he can come back into WrestleMania and suddenly he can be challenging for the WWE Championship. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's an unbelievable story. So I don't have a problem with it whatsoever because the story makes sense from what WWE can tell, from what we as a fan can be invested in, and the moments that we saw at the Royal Rumble on Sunday, the moments that we saw last night on Monday Night Raw, all of it. It's an incredible story to tell, so I really don't have a problem with Edge winning whatsoever. And facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, if this indeed is accurate from Dave Meltzer, it's a huge match. It's a huge match. I think, as I mentioned, either match works. Drew McIntyre versus Edge works. But I think if you were to line them up next to each other, I think Edge versus Roman Reigns is the bigger match. It is the bigger match. Roman Reigns right now is the biggest star in WWE. Since he returned in August at SummerSlam last year, he has been the biggest star. He's been the best thing going on both brands. Every single week, he's part of the best segments on WWE television. He's got the best act, the best gimmick right now. He's arguably the best on the mic in WWE right now. His matches since he returned have been phenomenal. The pairing with Paul Heyman, the faction with Jey Uso, all of it. All of it's been just so critically acclaimed on social media, backstage, you name it. It's been the best thing on WWE television. So if you are to line those matches up against each other, Edge versus Drew McIntyre, Edge versus Roman Reigns, Edge versus Roman Reigns for me is the bigger match. I mean, Roman Reigns has got a ton of WrestleMania main events under his belt. Drew McIntyre has one. Edge has a couple of WrestleMania main events under his belt. All of it makes more sense. All of it makes so much sense. And I think all of the ingrained story that Edge has right now, when it comes to, again, the 10 years recovering 10 years to the day he can win back the World Championship after 10 years to the day that he retired, all of it is just so much storytelling, and it's storytelling to the highest level. And I think the Roman Reigns is the bigger match just because of where Roman Reigns is right now, the name power, the star power that Roman Reigns has. Not to say that Drew McIntyre isn't a big star by any stretch of the imagination, but Reigns has more mainstream appeal. And I think considering the work that Roman Reigns has done over the course of the last 12 months, all of it to me just makes more sense that it would be Roman Reigns versus Edge. So Edge, I guess, will be moving over to SmackDown. We'll touch on this in a second, but I'm very, very excited for that. Spear versus spear. And when Edge returned last year, for me, from my point of view as a fan, I mentioned this before, not to say that the Edge versus Randy Orton stuff was bad, because it really wasn't. It was some of the best stuff on TV over the course of the last 12 months. But my initial reaction when it was, okay, Edge is going to be facing Randy Orton at WrestleMania, it was like, okay, that's fine. But what I'm really looking forward to is seeing Edge face off against the guys he's never faced off against before. The exciting thing when Edge came back is essentially he'd missed a generation almost. So when he came back, there was a plethora of talent he'd never faced off against before. Whether that was Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, the list goes on and on, Bray Wyatt. You know, those kind of people were the people I was really excited to see Edge face off against, because I really felt that they were the big money matches. They were the dream matches that we never thought was going to be a possibility. So Edge versus Roman Reigns is a dream match. We never thought it was possible. It's spear versus spear. It's a clash of generations. It's an unbelievable story from Edge's point of view, miraculous recovery. Roman Reigns is absolutely killing it right now. The head of the table. Talk about Reigns fighting for his family, where Edge is fighting for his family and fighting for his legacy. All of it is just such a phenomenal story. The dates line up perfectly. Everything about this is a home run. Everything about this is a home run. So if indeed it's going to be Edge versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, I'm certainly very excited for it. I guess we'll find out more this Friday night or in the next couple of weeks on SmackDown. Which leads me to my next point, is that Edge could be set to appear on SmackDown this coming Friday night. Now, WWE Hall of Famer Edge has been teased for Friday night's Fox SmackDown episode on Fox. There was a teaser promo released last night during Raw. Now, the teaser noted that Edge may appear on Friday to follow up on his men's Royal Rumble win on Sunday, while Bianca Belair, of course, will return to her show to celebrate her women's Royal Rumble victory from the pay-per-view. Edge is not a member of any roster right now. I know he's obviously been pretty much appearing on Raw exclusively since he returned last year, but technically he's, I guess, one of those free agents, the same way that John Cena is. Of course, Edge wasn't drafted anywhere, I remember, in the draft last year. Now, Edge appearing on SmackDown this week is interesting, as of course it was reported, as I mentioned, that the Rated R Superstar is currently scheduled to be facing Universal Champion Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 37. Now, the same report, as I just said, noted that Belair's WrestleMania 37 opponent has not been decided on yet. Now, Edge made his Raw in-ring return on last night's show. We'll touch on this in a second too. He defeated Randy Orton in the main event after a distraction by Alexa Bliss. I think what I would do when I come to the whole Randy Orton Edge match last night, I'm going to do a separate video because there's just so much to get into there. There's so much to get into. But Edge did also appear in the opening segment of the show when he interrupted WWE Champion Drew McIntyre in the Raw opening segment. Edge did not challenge McIntyre for WrestleMania 37, but promised when he does make his decision on who to challenge on the grandest stage of them all, everyone will know. So that's the situation when it comes to Edge. It looks like he's going to be appearing on SmackDown this week. Whenever he delivers his his challenge, I guess, I don't know. Sometimes WWE, there's no hard and fast rule about when the Royal Rumble winner announces who they're going to be facing. Sometimes they do it straight after the Rumble match. We saw Shinsuke Nakamura do that before. Sometimes they do it on the next episode of Raw. They've done that before. Sometimes they'll wait until Fastlane, or they'll wait until all the pay-per-views, Elimination Chamber and Fastlane have been done. Then they'll do it. So it's just a case of how long WWE want to stretch this out. I would consider that because we are going to have live fans in attendance, whatever that number is. Some are saying 30,000 per night. Some people are saying 25,000 per night. I don't know. I think regardless of the fact that it's WrestleMania or not, we are still living in a pandemic right now. And you do have to weigh up whether you would actually want to go to a live show and put yourself at risk like that. So I don't know what ticket sales are going to be like. Maybe they'll sell out like that. Maybe they won't because of the concern about safety. So I would think if WWE was smart, they would announce Edge versus Roman Reigns sooner rather than later to really spike those ticket sales, because they want to have as many people there as they can, and they don't want to have a stadium of 30,000 people or 25,000 people. It's at limited capacity anyway, and then not sell out. WWE would hate that look from their PR point of view, so I would assume that they'll probably have Edge announce that he's going to be facing Reigns sooner rather than later, but we'll have to wait and see on that, and we could see Edge on SmackDown on Friday. And as I mentioned, we will do another video today talking about Edge versus Orton last night, because there is so much to get into there when it comes to not announcing that ahead of time, so we'll save that for another video. But speaking of Edge, another return this past Sunday was, of course, Christian. Christian shocked a ton of people when it comes to his return. Nobody saw that coming. I certainly didn't. If you were watching with me on the watch along, you'll see my reaction. It was head on the head. It was incredible. Now, reportedly, Christian's Royal Rumble appearance on Sunday reportedly was not just a one-off appearance. Christian is scheduled to make future WWE TV appearances. This is according to a report by PW Insider. But as of 4 p.m. Eastern yesterday, he wasn't booked for last night's Raw. He, of course, didn't appear last night on Raw. But it is believed that the former World Heavyweight Champion will be working a part-time schedule in-ring for WWE. Now, the story going around backstage, because everyone's asking, how did this happen? How did Christian get cleared? How did no one know about it? Nobody knew about it. When Edge got cleared last year, everyone kind of knew. It was kind of an open secret on the dirt sheets. People didn't confirm it. There was still a little bit of doubt, but people thought, Edge is coming back. People spotted him in Pittsburgh, all that kind of stuff. Christian, nobody saw it coming. Nobody at all saw it coming. And I guess because people aren't out and about when it comes to the pandemic, people didn't spot him in Pittsburgh or anything like that. But there is a story about how this actually worked, how Christian did get cleared when it comes to being an in-ring performer for WWE once more. Now, the story going around backstage after Sunday's pay-per-view was that Christian was officially but secretly medically cleared 1 week before the Rumble after a visit to doctors in Pittsburgh. Now, very few people within WWE were aware of his return before he started warming up on Sunday. Christian entered Sunday's 30-man Royal Rumble match at 24 and was the 27th elimination, tossed out by Seth Rollins. He lasted 18 minutes and had 18 minutes 12 seconds rather. Who on earth wrote this? And had 2 eliminations. Braun Strowman with WWE Hall of Famer and winner Edge, and United States Champion Bobby Lashley with Riddle, Daniel Bryan, and WWE Intercontinental Champion Big E. So Christian is back. Christian is back. Now, he wasn't on Raw. Maybe he wasn't on Raw because he's booked for SmackDown on Friday. Now, hear me out. Before Christian made his return last night, technically he had a match last year on Raw. Forget about that one. His last official proper match, when he got his last concussion and was forced to retire, that was in 2014. And it was a fatal 4-way #1 contender match for the Intercontinental Championship. Whoever won that match would challenge for the Intercontinental Championship at the time. Now, as I mentioned, Christian suffered a concussion during that match. It was the final concussion of his career. He had suffered a few concussions at that point. That one was bad enough for WWE to say, look, we can't clear you anymore. 2 more concussions, you're done. And that was Christian done for however many years, 7 years out of the ring. And I think everyone, like with Edge, thought, okay, Christian's done. Rode off into the sunset, didn't get the way to finish it that everyone would have liked. Didn't get a Hall of Fame induction either, which is BS. But people thought, okay, that's Christian done. That's not going to be Christian in the ring anymore. Well, the Intercontinental Champion during that time, after Christian won that match, was none other than Big E. Fast forward 7 years later. Who is the Intercontinental Champion once more in WWE? That would be Big E on SmackDown. So maybe, just maybe, the reason that Christian wasn't booked for last night's edition of Monday Night Raw is because he's going to be booked for SmackDown on Friday because he wants to get the match that he never got and he's rightfully owed. He was the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. He never got that match 7 years ago. The champion is still the same 7 years later. So why wouldn't you have Christian versus Big E once more? And look, Christian coming back. Is Christian going to be a main eventer? No. Is Christian going to be a world champion? No, he's not. Because not wanting to be harsh to Christian, he was very rarely at that level. He should have been way more often. Mid-2000s, before he left to TNA, he was one of the hottest heels on Monday Night Raw. And he left because he was frustrated. He left because he went, look, I'm not getting pushed the way I want to. I'm not getting booked the way I want to. I think I'm capable of being a world champion. I think I'm capable of being in the main event. Obviously, those in WWE don't. I'm going to go out, prove it. He went to TNA. He proved it. He came back. Took a moment to get there, but eventually, after Edge retired, he became World Heavyweight Champion twice. Now, say what you will about those world title runs. One was, 2 days, 3 days, when he won it at Extreme Rules, then Randy Orton beat him on the following edition of SmackDown. Had another title reign over the summer. He won it by disqualification, which is annoying. But he's a former world champion and had a tremendous career. Coming back, though, does that mean just because he's a former legend and the way that it finished for him and another miraculous recovery, does it mean that he should be in the main event? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But what he can do the Mick Foley role. And what I mean by that is he can come back, he can put younger talent over. He is still incredibly experienced, he's still phenomenal in the ring, one of the best to do it. So having matches against Intercontinental Champions like Big E, having matches against mid-card talent, up-and-coming mid-card talent, getting them to the main event, getting them to the next level, that's what he can do. So a feud with Big E for the Intercontinental Championship as we go into WrestleMania, that would be fantastic. I would really like that. So hopefully we see something like that. Now let's talk about Monday Night Raw last night as well, because we saw Sheamus finally did it. He finally turned on Drew McIntyre, and it looks like we're going to get a Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre match for the WWE Championship soon. Now Sheamus has finally turned on his good friend Drew McIntyre. Last night's post-Royal Rumble edition of Raw featured an opening segment where McIntyre was interrupted by Edge to discuss his Royal Rumble victory on Sunday. Now McIntyre praised Edge, and Edge called him out for not attacking him when he entered the ring, complimenting him instead. Now Sheamus was to interrupt this, which felt very odd, but Sheamus talked down to Edge and said our superstar should be flattered by Drew McIntyre's compliments. Sheamus noted that he's not happy, and while Drew has been his friend for many years and wants to take the high road with Edge, Sheamus doesn't. The segment went back and forth, with Edge warning Drew that he's playing a dangerous game and he has a big target on his back. Sheamus talked some more trash to Edge before Edge left the ring, noting that the world will know when he makes his WrestleMania 37 decision, But everyone should know that he plans on leaving WrestleMania with the WWE Championship. As Edge left the ring, Drew McIntyre raised the WWE Championship and watched as Edge made his exit. But then Drew turned around to get a big bro kick from Sheamus. The Celtic Warrior then left the ring to piped-in boos from the WWE Thunderdome and posed on the stage as Drew recovered. Now, then as we came back from commercial, because this was a thing that kind of went on throughout the evening. As we returned from commercial, Sheamus was interviewed by Charlie Caruso in the back. Sheamus said he's tired of being known as Drew McIntyre's friend and declared they are no longer friends because he wants the WWE Championship. Randomly at this point as well, this was really weird, WWE just randomly teased a new alliance between Sheamus and Drew Gulak as Drew Gulak gave his bags to Sheamus, which was weird, but okay, maybe Sheamus has a new friend in Drew Gulak. Charlie later on interviewed Drew McIntyre on the show. He noted it would be an honor to face Edge at WrestleMania 37, but in regards to Sheamus, he said family fights all the time, but this felt different. Drew went on to say that if they want to throw away his 20-year friendship with Sheamus over a WWE Championship, then so be it. Drew then declared if Sheamus wants the match, he's got it. So looks like at some point we're going to get Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus finally for that WWE Championship. Everyone saw it coming, but it didn't make it any less good. I thought it was really well done. It reminded me of, not to say it was exactly the same or it was as good as this, but WrestleMania 23, you had John Cena versus Shawn Michaels, and they were tag team champions for a period, which I don't like that kind of singles guys becoming tag champions, but it was for the storyline, it worked. You knew at some point Shawn Michaels is going to turn on John Cena. It was just going to happen. Shawn Michaels always turns on everyone. He can't be trusted. He was going to turn on John Cena eventually. That was the whole point. So you knew it was going to happen eventually. It was going to happen. John Cena knew it was going to happen. But the whole fun of it and the whole tease of it was, oh, but you don't know when. You don't know exactly when. It's going to happen. Everyone knows it's going to happen. But just about when is it going to happen? And then eventually when it did happen, I think it was on the Raw before WrestleMania. It was brilliant. The crowd exploded. I think it was in Chicago at the time. All of it, it was just so well done. It was perfect. And it was the same last night. Everyone knew eventually Sheamus was going to turn on Drew McIntyre. Because going into their friendship, and they are real life friends, but going into this storyline they've been doing, Sheamus was this villainous heel on Raw and SmackDown. So whenever a heel suddenly becomes best friends with a babyface, they're going to turn on them eventually. So everyone knew it was going to happen, but it didn't make it any less good when it did happen. And I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. And look, I was thinking this last night. If Edge is going to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, if they could stretch this out and if it was booked correctly, then I think Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus could actually be quite a lot of fun for WrestleMania if they booked it correctly. Now, I think at this point, considering the timing, it's the start of February right now. We've got Elimination Chamber and Fastlane to come. I think it's very, very likely that we'll probably have Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre, one of, if not both of those events, and Drew McIntyre will face someone else at WrestleMania. But if they did it properly, it could be a lot of fun. So I thought it was well done, and I'm glad WWE took their time with it. I thought it was a good moment, and I'm excited for their match whenever it shall be. So that's very exciting. Let's talk about John Cena, because John Cena, WWE icon, legend, future Hall of Famer, has said that he will not be at WrestleMania 37 this year, which is certainly interesting considering reports were coming out to say that he was a lock for WrestleMania 37 this year, and now John Cena is disputing that and saying that's not going to happen. Cena spoke with Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated to promote his new Mountain Dew campaign. The former WWE champion said he cannot make WrestleMania for the first time since WrestleMania 19 in 2003. Now, at the moment, John Cena is currently in Vancouver to film the Peacemaker series on HBO Max. He noted that he's unable to make it to Tampa for WrestleMania 37 and then back to Canada for filming due to COVID-19 restrictions. The Peacemaker series began filming in mid-January, and Cena said the show will wrap in July. He added there's no logistical way he can make it to WWE's biggest show of the year in April. He said, quote, "Currently, I'm in Vancouver shooting Peacemaker, the series for HBO Max. Given the quarantine regulations, if I were to leave Canada upon return, I would have to quarantine for another 2 weeks. Essentially, that would shut production down. Strictly based on the letter of the law right now, there is no logistical way I can be there. We film now until July." So, people are saying, oh, can you believe him? Do you believe him? Who knows? This is pro wrestling. Anything is possible, and John Cena is a veteran pro wrestler at this point, and he's hardly going to come out in the media in a random interview talking about Mountain Dew that he's going to come out and say, oh yeah, I'm going to be at WrestleMania, I'm going to be facing this person. That isn't going to happen. So you can believe him or you won't. We'll find out eventually. When he's saying that though, logistically, I mean, he's telling the truth in terms of those are the logistics of it all. He just might not being totally honest about how long they're filming for. Maybe they don't wrap in July. That's a pretty long shoot, going from January to July. Talk about 6 months. I understand movies are 6 months, but this is a limited series on HBO Max. I guess maybe if they're shooting technically a movie, but it's going to be split into episodes like they're doing with some of those Disney Plus Marvel movies, then maybe it will be a bit longer. I don't know. The logistics of it are true in the sense that if he's going to go in from Canada to the United States, there's a 2-week quarantine either side of things, so they would have to shut production down for like 4 weeks or something like that. That's a problem. That is a problem. Maybe though, just maybe, they've put that break in there for a month. I don't know. These things, maybe John Cena is being economical with the truth. Maybe he's telling logistically the truth in terms of what it takes to get into the United States. Maybe he's not telling the whole truth when it comes to when they finish production, if there's breaks in production or anything like that. So that is something to consider there, I would say. I wouldn't be stunned if he didn't show up. And frankly, you know, is he completely needed? Well, why don't you create some new stars and then you don't have this issue? You know, people might say, oh, it's a massive problem John Cena can't be at WrestleMania, because it does hurt WWE that John Cena can't be at WrestleMania. It's a better show, financially, media-wise, you name it, if John Cena is on it. It's not a massive problem, though, if WWE creates new stars and they don't have to rely on a returning John Cena. So this is WWE's past booking sins coming back to bite them if Cena indeed can't make it. If he can't make it, then again, it's not the end of the world. Maybe you just have to create some new stars. Heaven forbid WWE does that. So that's the situation when it comes to John Cena. Interesting note about the Royal Rumble on Sunday as well, that Vince McMahon reportedly was not in attendance. WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon missed Sunday's Royal Rumble pay-per-view, but stayed in touch with officials who were left in charge of the show. Now, Vince was absent from the pay-per-view, and while there's no word on why he wasn't there, it's been noted how his brother Roderick recently passed away, and he missed the following week of TV after Rod's passing. Now, Vince was said to still be very involved throughout the day via telephone. This is according to Ringside News, so again... Vince was also on phone with the key people in the gorilla position, easy for me to say, during the entirety of the pay-per-view. Rumble production was led by Kevin Dunn, while Bruce Pritchard led the creative writing team, and Triple H actually ran things at the show. Now, of course, it's so rare for Vince to miss so many TV tapings like this lately. There was no word on if he'll be at Tropicana Field for last night's Raw or if he was in attendance or not. While Triple H, Dunn and Pritchard were in charge of last night's Rumble pay-per-view, Ringside News has also reported that the 30-woman Royal Rumble match won by Bianca Belair was produced by Tyson Kidd, Adam Pearce, Chris Park and Pat Buck, while the men's Rumble match was produced by Shane McMahon, Jason Jordan and JB Noble. So there are some interesting details. As far as Vince McMahon missing some television, look, people will like to look into that a variety of different ways. The guy's just lost his only sibling, so I think we can cut him a bit of slack for that. And as I mentioned before, best wishes go out to the McMahon family during a very trying and difficult time. Let's talk about Raw again last night, talk about Damien Priest, because Damien Priest officially, after appearing at the Rumble on Sunday, is now a member of the Monday Night Raw roster. Rapper Bad Bunny returned to WWE television during last night's Raw and helped Damien Priest defeat The Miz in singles action, which was his official Raw debut. As noted before, Bad Bunny began a feud with The Miz and John Morrison at Sunday's Rumble event, which saw the Grammy-winning rapper deliver a top rope splash to the Raw brand heels after Priest eliminated them from the Rumble match. The storyline continued last night on Raw as Bunny was invited to be a guest on Miz TV. The segment saw Miz and Morrison apologize for what happened at the Rumble pay-per-view so the two sides could move forward and work together in the future, but of course Bunny wasn't interested in working with the heels. Bunny then said one of his dreams was to become a WWE superstar, then introduced his friend and out came Damien Priest. Priest immediately entered the ring and dropped The Miz with a right hand. We then had a match between Priest and Miz kick off once they came back from commercial. Priest defeated The Miz after using the Broken Arrow and then the Reckoning for the pin. Bunny got involved a few times and dropped Morrison at ringside with a microphone shot to the face. Now, at the time of writing on WWE.com, Priest is still listed as a member of the NXT roster, but he's on the Raw roster now. Priest is officially on the Raw roster. He was written off on the New Year's Evil special at the start of the year. Priest, again, I've said this time and time again whenever I talk about NXT, whenever I talk about Damien Priest. To me, Damien Priest, a bit like Bianca Belair, I think they will be the exception to the rule in the sense that they've had moderate success in NXT. Priest was North American champion. Bianca Belair didn't win anything in NXT. They'll have their greatest success on the main roster because Vince McMahon will look at people like Damien Priest and just completely fall in love. He has the exact look that Vince McMahon loves. Vince McMahon will look at Damien Priest and see a star. Frankly, when I look at Damien Priest, I see a star. This guy, from his entrance last night, from his entrance at the Rumble, he just comes across as this cool, slick megastar. And he feels like the bigger the stage, the bigger the star that Damien Priest feels like. He really just feels like he totally belongs there. So I think Damien Priest is going to have huge success on the WWE roster. People always said they would have preferred to see him on SmackDown. To me, I think it doesn't really matter. I think he's going to have great success on Raw, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does as we now head into WrestleMania season. Damien Priest is someone that, given the Money in the Bank concept, if they brought that back for WrestleMania or even the Money in the Bank in a ladder match in May, he's the type of person that I would say give him the briefcase to. Let him carry the briefcase for a year, then you can reevaluate if he's ready to become world champion, because I think it is that quick. This is a guy also, I think he's like 38, so you've got a limited window of what you've got to do with Damien Priest. It's kind of now or never. So it's going to be very interesting to see how well he does on Monday Night Raw. And finally, we have an update when it comes to Jey Uso, because obviously a lot of people were noticing that Jey Uso wasn't there at the Royal Rumble on Sunday, and he wasn't been featured on the graphics, hasn't been on SmackDown for a couple of weeks. Reportedly, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter from Dave Meltzer, Jey Uso is reportedly out of action right now. Uso was not in attendance for Sunday's Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and now Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter has reported that the SmackDown superstar is not medically cleared to compete right now. At the moment, there is no word why on Uso is not cleared to compete or when he'll be cleared to return to action. Uso has not appeared on SmackDown since the January 15 episode. His last match came on January 15 when he lost to Shinsuke Nakamura. At one point, he was announced for the Royal Rumble but did not appear. So that would go to explain as to the situation with Jey Uso. We don't know what it is at the moment. I'm not going to speculate on why Jey Uso isn't cleared to compete because it's not fair. As I've mentioned time and time again, when it comes to medical issues or injuries or anything like that, they're private. When they're private medical issues, it's in the name, private. It's not for us to speculate. It's not for us to speculate what's going on with Jey Uso. All that we know is he's not on TV right now, and all we can do is wish him the best, and hopefully he gets a quick recovery, because he was doing fantastic stuff with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman on SmackDown, one of the best factions in WWE right now. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he can return soon. But of course, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all the news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.